Over the last 8 to 9 months, you've heard me talk about cricket and my entry into cricket, but I've never really talked specifically about the project that I'm undertaking and the project I'm undertaking where I'm currently stood and in other areas around Bracknell. And the purpose of this now is to set out what we're up to and what we've been up to and what we're going to be up to in this space over the coming weeks, months and years ahead. The 5th of September last year, I was doing my morning death scroll on Instagram, and in my timeline, in my feed, was an advert from Fine & Country. Fine & Country advertising a farm, a 34-acre farm in Bracknell. And I was taken aback. Obviously, my phone had been listening to me, and it had sent and it delivered to me absolute gold in this post. And I'm scrolling, looking at it, thinking, how do I not know about this farm? Long story short, it was part of it was within the High Court, and it was being sold in a very, very quick sale by Fine & Country. So we had to mobilise and move very, very quickly. So I viewed it on the 5th, I offered on the 8th, and 43 days later, we bought Oaktree Farm. As we were doing that, obviously my history with the cricket club dates back to 2016, and I had an option on their site in the centre of Bracknell. They've outgrown that, it's one pitch. I had an option to acquire that. So basically, in the 43 days that followed, I bought their site, so they had enough liquidity to buy this site. So the site in its entirety is 34 acres. They bought, day one, 25 of those acres, and I bought 9 of those acres. So on their 25 acres, what makes Oaktree Farm so unique, so a unicorn, a needle in the haystack, is the previous owner for 15 years had run a basketball academy from this location. And if you go back to 1980, the buildings, some of the barns and buildings had a sport and recreational use class. But more importantly, a large proportion of the acreage at the farm, on the 25 acres that the cricket club bought, had, and where I'm stood right now, is where he used to do his boot camps. So that building down there is where, in the centre of that building, is a basketball court. A real, full-size basketball court in that building just down there, and that's where he used to deliver his basketball training sessions. That's really powerful in the context of planning. Having that pre-existing use class is gold for someone like me that's looking to mobilise across this site for sport and recreation. That said, sport and recreation on greenbelt land is a supported thing. So the fact is, the 25 acres is going to stay green open space. Whilst we're working across this land at the moment, what we're doing here is we've top dressed it, and we've taken out all the undulations off this area to make it flat, a nice flat surface. So that's what we've been up to over the last few months, is making this area here ready to be able to house cricket in the future. So that's what we've been doing at Oaktree Farm. So my overarching role with the cricket club, so since I first entered into my option agreement with them, there's been 3 changes of leadership within the cricket club, and with every leadership change, so my first iteration I dealt with the very first chairman I dealt with was Brett, and a guy called Paul Bray, and then it was Chris White, and then more recently I've been working closely with Ashok and Anita. And I suppose Ashok and Anita probably align more with what I'm about. They have a real sense of growing the youth offer at the cricket club. So my role has been to advise and guide them on how they can grow the participation and grow the club. And ultimately, that's what we've been up to over the last 2 or 3 years, is growing the participation numbers and making sure really that there is a need to expand the club. And that kind of, it hit that critical point in the last season, and I've been working with them to source extra pitches, and really they were at breaking point on their one pitch. So ultimately my role has been to grow the club or help them grow the club and help them acquire the land. So we've acquired 25 acres for the cricket club. So the cricket club have bought 25 acres. My job was to help them acquire that 25 acres. And we're also in the centre of Bracknell at the parks. We've refurbished an existing cricket square, and we hope to enter into a long-term kind of 30-odd year lease with Bracknell Council on that site. So ultimately my job is to help them grow the number of pitches that they have available to themselves, help them grow their infrastructure, and help them acquire more land. We're not done with acquiring just this 25 acres. We want to acquire more land. We want to grow the infrastructure with the cricketing infrastructure in the borough. And that's my role, is to help them acquire more land and facilities. This was the light bulb moment when I walked into this building last September and saw a basketball court at the centre of it. I thought, why is there a basketball court in the middle of a barn, in the middle of a farm? What's going on here? Bit of investigation. This building had a planning consent in 1980 for sport and recreation. The previous owner had used it for 14 years to deliver basketball coaching sessions, so it has a pre-existing use of sport and recreation. And we'll head inside and I'll show you the basketball court that really made this. It's the reason why we bought this site in 43 days. Let's go in. As I walked through this room on the 5th of September last year, it was that, I've talked about it many times, with that light bulb, but it was the moment where I went, why is there a basketball court in a bar? And this is underneath all of this junk that's in here. It's become, as we've cleared the site, everything's come back to this room, but underneath here is a basketball court. You can see the nets. And this is where the previous owner for 14 years had delivered group basketball sessions, one-on-one training sessions. You know, he had done an awful lot in these barn buildings in a sport and recreation context. So that's how this site had been used, and that is really, really powerful for us because it's a predetermined use. It's how this site has been used. It's a matter of fact. So from a planning perspective, we are able to use this for sport and recreation. I mean, ultimately on Greenbelt land, sport and recreation is a supported use class anyway, because it preserves the openness of the Greenbelt. So they like it anyway. But nonetheless, in terms of a slam dunk, it's as big a slam dunk as you can get, having that pre-existing class already here. Across the wider site, you can start to see that of the 25 acres, we've pretty much finished around 19 of those acres have been top dressed and reseeded. So a large proportion of the external works have done. We are going to be putting in applications. We've got a pre-application running at the moment to transform these into usable buildings. At the moment you can see that they're a bit of a dumping ground, but we're going to convert these to a 4-lane indoor centre going in that direction. And that is in a pre-app and will be going into a live application in the coming weeks.